Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius. And we have an amazing guest with us today who's actually a neighbor. But I say this like I don't say this often, but it is actually true. And an awesome topic, very relevant and very timely because of everything that you are going through, budgets, looking ahead to 2024 and beyond. Mark, welcome on our show. How are you today?
Well, I'm great. Thanks for having me. Excited about the conversation.
Fantastic. So before we get into how to facilitate event-led growth and give some great lessons to everybody that's listening, and tell us a little bit of where you are right now, because I think people might have seen you in different lives, but it all culminates together.
Sure. Yeah, I started my own business called TAC with Nick Bennett. I guess it officially launched the beginning of August. It's been going since kind of June, though. And we're a media and go-to-market firm. We have kind of three different business models within the company. One that's going to be announced next Thursday. But yeah, it's fun, and it's about helping entrepreneurs, go-to-market professionals figure out how to grow in a different way instead of taking this kind of company-first approach, which is what a lot of us have been using as the approach to our go-to-market for the last 10, 20 plus years. We said, no, let's take a people-first approach, given the undeniable things that have been created that are impacting our lives on a daily basis since kind of the advent of the internet.
Fantastic. So who's your ideal clientele right now? Our listeners are primarily association, profit, nonprofit organizers. We have our usual suspects that come in. So Shapiro's probably kind of coming in with espresso right now and so forth. But who's your ideal client?
Yeah. B2B, business to business, startups and scale-ups. Could be a private company, a public company. And then we have a membership club and community called Club PF. That's for marketers, entrepreneurs, to learn like the most in-demand strategies and skills when it comes to a different way to go to market these days. So kind of anyone can join that if you want to learn like the things that matter today versus looking back. A lot of what's out there when you look at like go-to-market education is out of date, because the way things move and the way things have changed in the last 3 to 4 years is crazy. In the past, you could go 3-4 years with studying a different go-to-market discipline and say, yeah, it's stable, it's not going to change too much. But so much has changed in just 3-4 years. So we believe in this different approach, and we want to help people learn this approach and have the most relevant content education and bring like-minded people together. So it's part that club and community, and part like, look, we provide on-demand go-to-market that kind of services for businesses that are those startups and scale-ups.
And so we're always trying to have our organizers, our listeners think of agility, but agility and the whole idea of the Titanic in our industry, it's very hard to push them out of their comfort zone or push them to have a different kind of conversation with their C-suite, their stakeholders, all of that. But like you said, changes have been happening in the last 3 to 4 years, which obviously, was detrimental for some, but it was also a launching pad for, doing better going forward, even though people want to go back. Oh, our numbers are like back to 2019. Our events are like back as they were in blah, blah, blah. So talking about agility, how does the concept of event-led growth or people first apply to this climate we're in?
That's a great question. I mean, agile execution is one of our values as a company. Like that's one of our, literally, it's on our website. We believe it. We live it every day. So I feel like what you first have to do when it comes to anything is you have to study people. Like that's where I always go, no matter, if it's event-led growth, content-led growth, product-led growth. How do you design something so that you put people at the kind of the center of that experience? So for event-led growth, it was created, I guess it was about 18 months ago. It was right before I joined AirMeet. They asked me to kind of think through a different way to position events. And, look, I understood product-led growth decently well, did a lot of that at HubSpot. I think inbound marketing has now become this idea of content-led growth because it's so measurable and you can create a repeatable growth motion from it. Like if you give these inputs, you'll get these outputs. And I think events are the exact same way. There's a lot of like leading indicators or inputs when it comes to executing an event or an event strategy. And if you do it right, you can say, well, I got this many registrations, I got this many attendees, I got this much engagement at an event. That is going to be predictable when it comes to how much revenue I can generate from that event, not in ticket sales per se, but in what the business is selling, either a service, a product, or whatever. And that's the genesis of event-led growth. It's how do you use events to discover, engage, and grow your customers through both online and in-person events.
Bruno, you have a question for Mark?
It all seems complicated, Mark. Every day when I wake up and open up my computer, there's another kind of marketing. There's another approach, there's another discipline that's, bubbling below the surface. And I also think about, in our event space, people aren't really that amenable to like new concepts. They like to do things the same way that worked 10 years ago. So I guess my question to you is, how do you approach new clients or new customers that might be interested in whatever approach, insert word here, you have, when it's already so complicated and, no one knows not only what strategy to take, but what, how to execute. What's the technology I'm going to use? Am I going to use HubSpot? Am I going to, is this now whatever, Eloquist, not Eloquist, that's a medication.
Eloquist. You do need medication to be in this industry, but no, it's not Eloquist.
Yeah. Anyway, it gets more complicated by the day. So help.
Simplify.
Yeah.
Well,
break it down for me.
I think you have to ask yourself some fundamental questions, like why does your business exist and what does it believe in? And then ask yourself, what is your growth ambitions from a revenue standpoint? That's where I always start. Those are the three key questions for me, no matter any type of business. Could be Apple, it could be someone who's starting a business today. And you have to ask those questions because that's going to predicate / determine what you ideally should do to help it grow. And I think of businesses in 4 different modalities: startups, scale-ups, sustainers, survivors. Mm-hmm. So asking that question in terms of the life cycle of your business is also super important. So I think your question is extremely hard to answer without the full some context, maybe not the full context of that business or the CEO of that business. And like, look, if that person's been running a business for 10 years and it's been working well and their growth ambitions are, look, I only want to do this for another 1 to 2 years. Why would you do really anything new? You're going to get in a position for a sale then, or just get as much profit as you can and wind it down. I think it's really hard for people to maybe decide what they should do because they haven't thought enough about kind of what do they want to achieve long term. Because if you want to have a business that really grows over the next 10 years versus a business that you want to sell or shut down in the next 2 years, your investments are going to be dramatically different, of course, right? So different. So yeah, I just feel like some fundamentals you have to lean into, the undeniable truths where people listen to people more than ever before because we've all been empowered to create and share what we've created. Mm-hmm. Undeniable truth. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to pivot. You have to be a lot better at using what we call people first go to market, using different aspects of that to grow your business. Like would I recommend someone do what I recommended someone do 10 years ago with search engines? No chance. I would not do that at all. If you've been doing that though for a long time and it's still working for you, it's a different story. If you're just starting and have never done it, I definitely would have recommended.
What do you mean? Do what with search engines?
Meaning you've created a really big engine around your content strategy and you've created a lot of, search equity. You don't want to turn that off, right? But it's changed. The game you play there is different than the game you played 10 years ago. But someone who's trying to play the game for the first time, I wouldn't recommend they go really hard in SEO as a channel for a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about really understanding and digging deep in regards to knowing what your people want, so that you're able to grow as a business or an organization or an association. Right now, everybody's trying to analyze their audience, right? And some get it right, some don't. Some still rely on the Survey Monkey, evals and so forth. What are like, I know, right? We should have big thumbs down. But so
I don't think monkeys have thumbs, do they? Aren't they like
no, neither does Survey Monkey have thumbs. But so if we want to give like 3 top brand new ways of unearthing like white space or new opportunities with even new audiences, not even just the old audiences that we have or we know as an organization, as an association, for example, that have been doing their events and their content year over year for 19 years, and they're about to shut their doors. What are 3 tips or like advice points that you could give them right now?
Around specific, sorry, just so I understand the question, like talking to customers. Yeah.
To understanding people's needs or desires in order to design better either content or assets or even events. We'll get to the event part in a bit.
Create in public.
Mm-hmm.
Ship things before they're like perfect. No questions. Like create in public. Number 2, make it a ritual to talk to 5 customers or buyers every single week. I do that every single week. That to me, it's probably up to 10 now. And 3, find people or companies, but partners that are going after a similar audience, and find ways to partner with them and learn from what they have learned about that audience.
Perfect. So we have that. We nailed down what we think our audience wants, especially the unusual suspects, the brand new audiences. And Liz Caruso, who's always with us, but always with her family. Family comes first. Create in public is so important. That's absolutely right. And I would also go with the whole ship it without it being perfect. That's a whole Seth Godin mentality right there that I think that us as event profs should actually embrace more than ever. And Rachel Stefan knows that lesson really, really well. But so when we talk about the audiences that we have, or even the untapped audiences that we have, then we're talking about events. Right now, we are almost like in another hamster wheel, not from the Corona coaster. We're trying our best. We have factors that are sometimes not even in our control. And Liz would vouch for this, where it's like factors like AV, like Wi-Fi, like political situation worldwide, or, all of this. So when we are designing events, we usually have clients that are designing events the same old way that they've done. So how would you have them think differently?
Well, first off, like ask yourself, why are you letting the status quo pull you in?
Because that's the way they always did things.
Why do you think this is called Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius?
Like,
it's like, that is the principal question we start out with every show. Yeah. We don't have the answer to that. We ask it constantly.
So how do you have them cut the shit? Like, stop it. Stop doing the same old.
Yeah. Well, you have to change. You have to change your mindsets. You have to want to change.
It's working. It's working for them.
That's relative, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's a choice the individual has to make, and only they can make.
Mm-hmm. It also comes in with strategy. We can lay out this whole new strategy for a client, and then they don't do it.
Well, that's why I am such a big believer in.
It's not that it's bad. It's usually really good. It's like, okay, now I know, and then they go back to, okay, it's Monday, I'm doing it the same old way.
Well, yeah, and that's why I look at psychographic fit more than anything, and psychographic intent. Like that's to me, if you don't believe in what we believe in, we won't work with you.
Yeah.
So in regards to events, let's put it this way. You've seen so many events, right, Mark? So those that are led by, like what Randall was saying about like leadership, what are the characteristics of leadership that will give that option or opportunity for more change? Like how does like an events director come to C-suite and say, if we don't change, we die? What is some of the elements of the business conversation they should be having?
Two things: customer perspective and feedback, and data. And then sometimes competitive / market, right? If you bring those three things and you create a story, not just present data or facts or figures, but you actually create a story that aligns to what the business is trying to achieve and what the business believes in. And this is easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. You have to educate the executives, because that's ultimately how you're going to change the status quo, is through education. Education is one of the most powerful things, other than like the weather and money, that we have in the world. So I feel like there's a, goes back to like how fast things change, lack of skills. No one teaches this in college. What you learn in college is either already out to date or going to be out to date in a few years. You always need to be self-educating yourself. And then you need to be the student and the teacher. And when it comes to changing the mind of the executive team, you also have to find at least one or two allies on that executive team to help you champion it as well.
How did you move in your mind from event-led growth to the expanded concept, which includes events, people-led growth, product-led growth, content-led growth? It's like what you're working with 7 different sort of streams of work. How did you move from one to this expanded viewpoint? What occurred to you?
I know, I'm happy to talk about that. Let me just share my screen so people can actually see it. So this is the model, right? This is the people first go to market model. And each of these growth motions can be measured in a very specific way. So it's not just me like saying, oh, you got to use these kind of things and you can't measure them. Everything in marketing, in my opinion, can be measured in some way. And it doesn't have to be, though, but everything can be. Especially now with the way you can connect sensors to the human brain, you can measure brain activity, everything can be measured. So outside of that, though, again, the caveat is not everything should be measured, but it can be. So when you think about these 7 different things, it first starts with this idea of partner-led growth. What is partner-led growth? It's the idea of how do you surround a person or an account with the right messaging, the right offers, the right positioning, the right things to influence them so that they ultimately, hopefully, if it makes sense for them, become your customer, right? And stay your customer, right? So it's this idea of going to market using the power of relationships and partnerships. And then to do that, though, to actually like make someone go from not knowing you at all to becoming a super loyal advocate, fan, user of your product service, you need some of these other 6 things to happen. You don't need all of them, probably, like especially when you get started, but over time, the best companies do all 7 of these things. Like the most successful, valuable companies do all of these, no doubt. I have tons of examples. And also the most successful local businesses in your community do at least 2 to 3, if not more than that, of these motions. And we can talk about that. But it starts with like the partnership idea, and how do you, like, from a marketing standpoint, a sales standpoint, a service standpoint, a product standpoint, how do you find partners to help you with those functions of your go-to-market? And then to actually build trust and get people to raise their hand, build the audience, convert people into pipeline, turn that pipeline into revenue, turn that revenue into renewals and like long-term durable value. You need offers. You need things that people are going to be like, ooh, that looks interesting. Let me like check that thing out. Let me download that. Let me engage with that thing. And that's where the idea of content-led, event-led, and product-led comes in, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to go to an event. I'm interested in that. I want to learn about that. That's interesting. You're offering something up to them. You're offering up some content, some media, some events, some webinars, some free tools, some products, whatever that is. And then with those offers, you have to say, how do I create, capture, and convert demand with the right audience, with the right people, of course, so that I can grow my audience, which is all about community-led growth. I can turn that audience into a deeper relationship and have them become members of the brand, have them become like part of the brand with member-led growth. And then how do I turn that audience and those members into customers? And how do I partner with my customers to activate them so they help me continue to build the audience, go right back into the community-led side of things, right? So like I said, it is complicated. When you think about this in totality, it's like, oh my God, how am I going to get all this done? It's going to take many, many years to do all of this. But to get started, there's usually one type of offer and one type of channel you have to start with. And it's usually community-led growth right now. And then I would argue event-led growth is the best place to start, because events are a form of content. It helps you create your content-led growth strategy. And as you do that, you'll learn about your audience, which helps you build free tools and maybe free products if you want to go down that route, if you even need to go down that route, which then helps you take those things and say, look, these things are exclusive for like the people that are going to become part of our owned community, aka the members in our own community that you might eventually start if you want to. And then, of course, that feeds into your monetization of your product and service to your customers. So the short answer is, you're 100% right, Michelle. It's very complicated, but I think it's necessary to think about go-to-market these days and not think about the company-first channels of, let's use paid media, let's use organic search, let's use email marketing. Those are just communication channels, transactional ways mostly to get someone's attention in a fleeting moment. They're not long-term durable things. They change a lot. They're getting more and more crowded and saturated. The things that we've kind of identified are things that you can really lean into over the long term. Yes, the actual tactics in all those 7 growth motions will change as technology changes and that technology influences human behavior. But fundamentally, it's how people have always thought about things, right? For at least 100 or 1,000 or tens of thousands of years. And that's the model.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like of that image, that the 7 or 6 areas, we in our industry really can only control or offer respite in the event-led growth piece, right?
I disagree.
Okay, well that is my question, is like, how do we then, if we're approaching corporations who are doing all of these go-to-market sort of, I don't know, I forgot what you called them, actions, how do we say that we're not just one piece of the pie, we need to interact with all the pieces of the pie? And how do we do that? How do we make it out to be, which in reality is a bigger thing than, here, just come to our event or let us do your event, and that only occupies one piece of the pie? How do we play nice with the other pieces?
So can you do an event without partners?
No, but I'm presuming that the company is already working on the partnership piece, and they're working on the people-led piece, and they're working on all the other pieces. All we're working on is the event piece.
But that's the wrong mindset, because you're not just working the event piece. You need partners to get people to the event. You need partners to help you produce the event. You need partners to help you follow up.
Be silos.
And
I think the other part, what Mark is talking about, is it can't be silos. There has to be another way where you are able to get, even if it's led by different people within an organization.
Yeah.
We always talk about it cannot be siloed. You have to bring all of these people together, whether it's membership, whether it's strategic partnerships, whether it's the content creators, programming, the event, team. And this is where I think the challenge turns into a detriment for the event and the event team, where it is so fragmented, so siloed, But we've been saying this for like a million years. Like here we go again talking about the same thing, where it's like if you don't treat the organization and as one whole, then your event led growth is going to suffer, right? The other part, which I think is, and I see a couple of, even at IMAX, I met a couple of event organizers. They were truly talking about that their organization is failing and is not going to be existent within a year or two because they've been doing the same events over and over again and not changing the concept, not changing the direction, not changing the partnerships or anything like that. So I tend to believe that, if you are not able to look at the 7 pieces all together or have someone come in from outside and do it for you, you're going to fail faster because things are changing faster.
Yeah. So it seems to me that it would be fairly easy to extrapolate your model and just sort of put it over an association. So it's not a corporation, it's an association, or it's a for-profit organization. They still need partners and content and people and all of the whatever, right? How do you what's that conversation going to be like when you go to an association and say, this is my go-to-market model, which it's not just for go-to-market, it should be, for every action really, to keep the association alive. How do you make them understand that this model could work for them as well?
The 2 things: who's your audience, and what are your goals? That's where it starts. And then you just teach them, and teach and teach and teach, right? Like it's the Socratic method: ask questions and then help guide them to a new way of thinking, basically. Because I mean, I don't disagree with Dolly, everything you said. It's I call it the act of like integrated revenue campaigns, and events are an offer that should be part of an integrated revenue strategy that aligns the company behind a set of objectives and goals. And the question is, when it comes to these associations, they have the same objectives and goals as any other business. They may do it for different reasons, but like, look, they need money. So the question is, how can we help you create more money and do it in a more efficient way? Let me tell you a story of another association who's done it like this, right? So that's a third thing I would bring is the actual stories that are the examples, because people of course learn best by doing it and teaching it. And then I think the third way they learn best is through studying someone who has done it / taught it. So that's what I would do.
Do you think, Mark, that events can grow to be too big and then would go against what the goals or objectives are of the audience?
How would you like frame too big?
So say, for example, an event gets to a huge size of attendance or even content offerings, and it becomes too overwhelming, and for the attendees, and it sort of becomes too big. Like, how do you, in the sense of size, where it's like there's so much going on, it's overwhelming, first timers don't know where to go, have no sense of navigation, and don't even come back?
I mean, it depends on like the why again. Like, why are people coming to this event? Why is the business doing the event? And then it also just sounds like, if the whys are aligned and they're justified, it sounds then it's a execution of bad event experience design to me.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like the goal of growth is actually killing the core, raison d'etre of actually existing.
Why?
Eventually, it will, sort of kill the audience because it's too difficult to navigate and consume, and stuff like that. So maybe growth in that instance isn't the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be that the event, even if it gets to a size that's just way too big, for example, it lends itself to other growth opportunities in the community side, or different types of events to complement it, or even on the content side. But then again, I mean, to Mark's point, it's going back to the why and going back to the audience. What do they want? Like always revisiting that. So in order to design better opportunities.
Is growth always the ultimate goal for your clients? I mean, they wouldn't need you or want you, not you, TAC, if they were, if say it's a lifestyle business, say it's you know, they exist for other reasons than growth. Would you have interest in those types of groups?
I mean, maybe. I mean, we're focused on startups and scale-ups. So those companies are looking to grow, and they're looking to grow in an efficient way. I mean, I think a lifestyle business is still looking to grow, but maybe not. There's no sense of compound growth. They still need to get to their ultimate growth target for that year. So it's relative again to like how you define growth in the mind. So yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe, but you know, it's either like you're going to try to grow more revenue or save money or do both, right? And that's the ultimate, right, idea with this capitalist society we live in and how business works. So, you know, we don't want to, focus on everyone by any means. But to me, it's like, look, if that lifestyle business believes in this new approach, and look, they're trying to generate say $10 million next year, or $1 million next year, and they have money to spend, like we'll help them. Yeah.
So we're wrapping up. What is one like Markism that you have when it comes to events in the next couple of years? Like, what is one thing that you're like, oh, if event organizers or directors don't see this now or start working on this now, then
I'm like Brian. Brian's like, you're doomed. You're toast. B2B events. That's not going anywhere.
Well, you have to tell the story about Brian if you're gonna like mention it. So
I think for me, it's I'm going to talk about this actually in about like an hour at this like event that Julius is hosting today.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Event intent data.
Bust it out before Julius's event. Come on.
Well, yeah, I've talked about it before already, but event intent data, like event organizers and planners need to get really good at using data to both plan, execute, and follow up on all the events that they do. And they need to teach their customers how to use that data as well. And then the second thing that's top of mind for me is I can't wait to see an AI first event technology company wipe out all the current event technology companies, because that will happen. I will put a lot of money on that.
When you say event AI,
are you like going he doing that, or
are you
building it? No, it's inevitable. It's like
inevitable.
So when you say an event AI company, which I totally agree with you,
saying it an AI first company.
AI first, not someone who's like putting some AI into their event technology stack. One that was founded off of two things: a foundation of AI and a foundation of a graph-based system. And you can Google graph-based systems. That would take another hour to kind of go into, but yeah.
No, I agree with you. So your prediction is like maybe, let's see,
what do we got?
2024.
Yeah. How much time we got?
Yeah, how much time is ticking?
I can stay till like 11:15.
No, I meant time on the company, like being forward.
Time on our industry.
Time on our industry.
I think events is one of the best places to be. Events like heck, I might start that company at some point potentially. TAC will potentially start creating software at some point, like down the road. That's definitely one of my top 10 ideas. Events aren't going away. Events need to, how you execute events and the missed opportunity with data and not thinking about the audience enough and putting the attendees at the center of the event. All the software is built from a company first mindset, in my opinion, not attendee first.
Very true.
So much disruption is going to happen. I'm excited. Someone's going to do it. Multiple people will do it. And yeah, the C events are going to get, eventually they'll get wiped out. It's a matter of time. Like look at the Fortune 100 list over the last 100 years. It always changes. Change is inevitable. So I'm excited.
You heard it here, Dahlia.
Yeah, and it's going to be started by women. I'm just
I
telling
love
you right
that.
now,
Let's
Mark.
go.
So there you go. Here we go. All
I
right.
love that.
Thumbs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll
Perfect.
support that.
This has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much. I know you're super, super busy, but
Ah.
thank you for cutting the shit with us and
I think
helping.
we should invite people to go to Mark's website. He has a really good white paper that kind of lays out this whole model, and I found it really, really interesting.
Oh, thanks,
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Awesome.
You saw me download it like 5 times because I go, did I download this? So I'm in your database system like under 5 different.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you everyone for being with us, and we will see you next week. Take care.